Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, and we're going to talk about gender dysphoria and stress as they kind of relate. So, let's start with gender dysphoria as its own. You know, it's something where you're going to feel like you're disconnected with your body, you're going to feel like it doesn't align with your gender, and then we have stress over here, which is I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling like there's a lot of things going on, I'm feeling like I don't have control, this is putting pressure on me, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. You know, have you said those kinds of things to yourself when you're under stress? Or even not said anything and felt like something in the background's going on? That's like the deepest stress. I've had that before where I got shingles because I was so stressed out, but I didn't even know that I was stressed because it was deep. It was deeply repressed. You know, like, have you ever kind of suddenly gotten sick or realized that you were stressed out the whole time and didn't know? So there's all sorts of layers of stress, and it can be, you know, there's the very superficial one that is very obvious and sudden, but then it can kind of get deeper and deeper and be more permeated into a more chronic way of experiencing stress. So I think when talking about stress and gender dysphoria, what we have to look at here is we have to really look at how stress affects your awareness, affects your energy, and affects your perception of the world, and then how that couples with gender dysphoria. So stress is going to tax your mental capacity, your mental ability to do things. You only have so much energy in your day. You know, when you get up in the morning, you have energy, but by the end of the day, do you have the energy to be able to keep doing things at the same level that you could? I remember reading about this with Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and how he tries to make one big decision in the day and then focus on really small, like he tries to do less of the small decisions, but tries to do like one thing or just like avoid decision fatigue. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. He tries to avoid decision fatigue. And what I try to do is I try to actually do all my work at the beginning of the day. Now, I know some of you actually turn on at night, and that's really cool. But like after doing a whole bunch of decisions, don't you feel a little bit more tired? So the point is, what I'm trying to get at is you have this fatigue that grows, and with stress increases that fatigue because you're holding it. Like imagine someone says something bad to you and you don't process it, and that's what this is. You're holding it, right? Like if you're holding it and if you stick out your hand like this and you're just holding something and we're continuing to have the conversation, do you think at some point your arm is going to get tired? Do you think at some point you're going to say, you know what, I'd rather just drop this thing? And that's kind of like when someone explodes, when someone says, oh my God, like that person cut in front of me and I hate them and I can't believe they're so terrible. But that person, they don't know, and that person didn't try to personally offend them, but they dropped the stress, and the stress is now on that other external factor that they're now allowing that release. So when you think about how you might be doing this with your gender dysphoria, imagine like the stress that you're experiencing and suddenly allowing that stress to manifest as gender dysphoria, which can then express the stress in a way that actually makes you not feel good about yourself, which can actually feed back into creating a lot more stress. How about that? That sounds pretty bad. Personally, for me, I kind of could not deal with high amounts of stress and gender dysphoria at the same time. So what I tried to do is I tried to keep them separate. I tried to keep them compartmentalized in a way where they wouldn't feed into each other. When I was transitioning at a tech company that in logistics, we were going from 400 employees to 1,500, and we had just raised something like we raised like $400 million, and then we raised $1 billion. And that was hella stressful when a company is going like this and you're transitioning and you're going like this, right? Super, super stressful. And so I tried to keep the stress at work and manage that stress while I kind of went through the whole transformation and gender dysphoria. But I have to say, when you're changing your voice and you're transitioning, there's so much confusion because you're trying to manage all of the stress but you're also changing who you are and trying to interact with all of these things at work that are changing or operating on your stress, and you don't even know where you stand, so you can't make a quick decision. That's what was hard for me, because I would make a presentation in the room and I'd be thinking about, well, am I presenting correctly in terms of my gender? Am I speaking well? And am I comfortable in this new version of myself that I still haven't defined and I'm figuring out? And that's stressful. And then also, like, we need to do all these things and we need to create this area of the application, and we need to do this and need to do that. That's also stressful. And you combine those and you have mega stress. And honestly, I mean, I almost got fired. There was kind of a point where I had to leave because the stress was too great and I just couldn't show up to work anymore. So that's actually really interesting talking to you about this, because I honestly blame my transition, because it was too much to transition and take on a rocket ship startup company at the same time. Way too much. Nowadays, I do get stressed, but I don't feel like it's ever tied into my gender dysphoria. What about you? Do you kind of combine these two things, or do you just have stress because of your gender dysphoria? That's probably what I have, is the stress in the background that's not related to my gender dysphoria. That just creates a mental state that's not as solid, not as positive. And then on the other side, I have these things that I feel stressed about that's related to my gender dysphoria. And if I'm coupling with both of these, it taxes my mind and my ability to operate. And sometimes they just hit and it collapses. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of how I experience it. And the best way that I've used to manage that and make myself better positioned for working with these things is to try and get objective experiences from other people to help battle the negative self-talk and negative perceptions. For example, I don't think, or not currently, right now, I don't like my face as much because my chin is freaking fat because of surgery last week. But I think my chin will look good. But there'll be times where I don't think I look good, and that's okay. But sometimes it's not okay, and I'll look at my body and I'll feel really crap about it. I'll say, like, what is this body? It's kind of a monstrous body and it's not as good as I want it. And normally I'll be able to handle that. But if there's something that's stressful, like at work, or like there's rent issues or something, I don't know, with the landlord, I do have landlord issues, that can just kind of push on me and collapse a bit. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So for you, I would ask you, like, what is your relationship with stress and gender dysphoria, and how can you kind of keep them in a way where they're stable and they don't collapse into each other and kind of compound? And if they collapse into each other and it feels like everything's falling off, how do you get up, and how do you experience that? How do you move through that? That's probably the next important thing, is figuring out how to move through the stress and the pain, because being trans and transitioning, welcome to the world of pain. There's going to be a lot of it, but it's not a bad thing. Honestly, you're going to grow, you're going to learn so much about yourself, and when you come out the other end, you're going to be amazing. I know you are. So there's plenty on that topic. This is just a little bit of an exploration of that. If you'd like to explore that more with my community, you can join the Discord down below, and you can also support me on Patreon, and you can send me a message if you support me on Patreon through Patreon. I'll see you in another episode soon. Bye.